Welcome Leica fans. Today we have a brand new 50mm lens for Leica M-mount. It's the replica of the classic Leica Summicron 50mm f2 rigid. This one is made by Light Lens Lab. The question is, how does it compare to the original and how does it compare to similar 50mm f2 lenses for Leica? Light Lens Lab kindly sent me their brand new 50 f2 rigid to test. So I flew to Poland to do some real-world testing, both portraits and non-portraits. Let's see how good this new lens is. Hi, Matt here from MrLeica.com. So first, how does the lens compare to the original Leica Summicron 50 f2 rigid? If I bring up some sample footage, we can see the differences between the two lenses. As you can see at first glance, both the original Leica lens and the Light Lens Lab replica are very similar size and look to the most part. Both lenses have the focus lock or infinity lock, which means once you get to infinity, you need to press the little lever to then unlock to go again. The benefits of the Light Lens Lab version, it has half stop aperture clicks compared to the original full stop aperture clicks. Another benefit of the Light Lens Lab, it has the close focus distance now of 0.7 meters compared to the original, which has a 1 meter close focus distance. Both lenses have the 39mm filter thread, which makes it very easy for using filters. Say both are like a mount, both lenses are rangefinder coupled metal and glass manual focus only. If I bring up a slide, you can see how the two lenses really compare side by side in terms of the weight, the size. So the next question is, how does this lens perform compared to similar 50mm lenses? First, let's see how the lenses look next to each other, and then we'll look at some example images and see which lenses perform the best. Okay, so let's look at a few 50mm f2 Leica M-mount lenses. These are just a selection of ones that you can get. So if we take a closer look, here is the new 50 f2 rigid Light Lens Lab versus the 50 f2 Elcan. Advantage of the Elcan, it's obviously smaller, but it's also got the modern focus tab, which I really like. But it does have the aperture scale, which goes backwards, which some people don't like. We've then got the new lens, the Light Lens Lab 50 f2 rigid. Compared to the DR has got the benefit of being able to focus closer once you attach the goggles. You can always tell a DR because it's got the flat plate on the top where you attach your goggles, without goggles and then with goggles. So now I can focus, so as I say, to about 0.45 meters. Very good lens, great sharpness. The only problem with this is it doesn't focus to infinity on digital like M cameras, the DR lens. Size-wise, very similar. Next, we've got a modern option. We've got the Leica Summicron 50 f2 version 5. The Summicron version 5 has got the benefit of the pull in, pull out lens hood. Similar size, similar-ish weight. Okay, so that's how the lenses look. Next, how do the lenses perform? So show all lenses at close focus distance for sharpness and bokeh testing, and then also at infinity for infinity sharpness testing. Let's take a look. Testing started in Poland when I had access to Thomas's original Leica Summicron rigid lens. I photographed this timetable in the station with both lenses, both f2 and at 5.6. Pause the video to see what you think, but it sharpens up a lot as you stop down with both lenses. Once I'd done center sharpness, it was next time to try and find a high point so I could do infinity testing. And so we tried to find a high point behind the station overlooking the whole of Gdansk. So thanks to Thomas for finding this place. I was using the Leica M10P for all photos in this video, if I forget to mention. And then I used both lenses again at every f-stop. And this time I'm focusing at infinity. I took two crops, a corner crop and a center-ish crop with both lenses. Here are the results with both lenses at f2. And now this is the corner at f2. I'm not sure if there's a tiny bit of distortion. It looks like the chimneys are slightly bending. This is at 5.6, more central. And then this is in the corner, 5.6. Okay, now back to the studio, and I wanted to do indoor testing for close-up bokeh and again sharpness testing in the center. This time I'm using my EVF so to ease the focusing and make sure that I'm not limited by the rangefinder. I'm going to take a central crop and I'm comparing the four lenses that I mentioned, the rigid, the Elcan, the version 5 and the DR. Take note of the bokeh as well as the sharpness. Feel free to pause the video. I'll try to shoot at 2.8 f4 and f5.6, and then I did close-ups for particular f-stops just to show you how the differences compare with the different lenses. There are nuances between each lens, but decide for yourself which one you like the best. This is now infinity. Again, comparing the three lenses, I couldn't test the DR because the DR doesn't focus to infinity on a Leica M10P, just to be aware of that. The version 5 is the sharpest in the corners at infinity. So you can see from those quick test results, the Light Lens Lab 50 f2 rigid performs, to my eyes, very, very well. Love the bokeh, but how does it perform for real-world testing? Next, let's head over to Poland and I'll test this lens for both walkabout photography and also my usual model photography. Okay, that was the geeky testing. Now for some kind of more real-world use testing. So again, in Poland, I had Thomas doing the behind the scenes for me, so thanks Thomas for that. I was just walking around testing photos as well, walking around the city. I'm sharing raw photos on the left and then raw plus preset on the right. So I flip my images to black and white when I'm using the 99% of my images, but obviously a lot of you want to see the raw files. So it works really nicely on the M10P. I was using the rangefinder with the Light Lens Lab 1.4 magnifier to help me focus, if you can see there on the M10P. It makes it easier for 50mm and longer focal lengths. This cafe was really good for kind of color testing and bokeh testing. So here's a few samples just shot in this little cafe that Thomas introduced me to. You can see the really kind of cool bokeh shapes in the corners and at the edges where you get the more cat-eye shape of bokeh. After a quick coffee and tea and cake and things to warm up, it was then time to do more testing. Here's some more specifics. So bokeh, cat-eye at the edges, circle it in the center. As you see from similar lenses, you've got a harder edge to the bokeh, which is maybe different to other Summicron lenses, to be aware of that. And then you will get more jagged bokeh just stop down from the 10 blade aperture. Here you can see again more samples of bokeh. Next, sunstars. So sunstars, if we zoom in on this one, you can see as I stop the lens down, you get some really nice 10-point sunstars from the 10 aperture blades. And again, here you can see even by 5.6, you get nice sunstars. Lens glow. You do get a nice glow from this lens. These are probably all shot at f2 because I tend to shoot wide open in the dark. And vignetting, not a huge vignetting problem. There is darkening on the corners, maybe gone by f4. Sharpness, now we have covered this a little bit already, but comparing the lens itself at different f-stops, if you kind of zoom in or go on widescreen, you better see that the sharpness increases as you stop down, to be expected. The center sharpness is pretty good wide open to start off with, but the corners are very mushy to begin with, so you really do need to stop down to maybe f11 to get sharp corners. Center's fine, just the corners are mushy. If you like sharp corners, look at the V5. Okay, more sample photos. This is now portraits. So this girl, we just stopped in the street because she looked cool, and Thomas speaks Polish, so he spoke to her and said, "Do you want some pictures?" And then I was kind of thrown into action. So thanks to this girl for stopping and letting us take some pictures for her. She looks that cool. Then yes, she does deserve to be stopped by photographers. So raw photos on the left and raw plus preset on the right. You can see some flare from this lens if you shoot in the sun. Another model shoot. This is, you may have seen this one already from the 90mm lens review, because I shot this a lot with the 90mm. All the photos you're going to see now are with the 50. So I'm shooting daylight only, 50 on the Leica M10P again. You can see just adding one of my color presets, it just gives a bit more punch to the photos. They're a bit wishy-washy, kind of out of camera. So yeah, these are just the nice colors from the sunset. I think I did use a little bit of flash to that last image just to balance out the scene with her being backlit. Here's a few more kind of tourist photos from walking around Gdansk and various things you might find interesting. Just testing the lens at every opportunity. Really enjoyed the lens, especially for portraits and kind of center sharpness. Not so much if you're like a landscape guy and edge sharpness, although I still quite like these. Okay, so those were the photos. What do you think? Are you impressed with this lens? From the real world testing, I was instantly blown away as soon as I saw the results in Lightroom. I just shoot raw, add my preset as mentioned, job done, and the photos really popped. And what I like the most about this lens is I really, really love the bokeh. And the bokeh shape of this, I think, is one of the best. It reminds me of maybe the Leica Summicron 50 1.4 version 2 pre-spherical with that kind of cat-eye shaped bokeh. I really like it. So in conclusion, can I recommend the Light Lens Lab 50 f2 rigid? It depends what you want. If you want the sharpest possible 50 of those we tested, you'd probably prefer the version 5 Leica lens. It's sharper at infinity, but if you prefer nicer rendering, or maybe more couchful rendering, should we call it that. Personally, I really like the Light Lens Lab version. The nuances are so small between all the different 50 Summicron lenses and copies of that, to the most part, if you're not trying to do bokeh shots, you'll probably be happy with any 50mm Summicron lens. So the benefits of the more modern lenses is they focus to 0.7 meters compared to 1 meter. But yeah, if you're getting really into the weeds like I often do, this bokeh is very nice, and I think Light Lens have done a great job. Price wise, I think it's a bit less than £700, so I'll put a link below. You can check for the prices in your country. It just feels like a Leica lens. The only difference is it doesn't say Leica on the front. You can get these in black, in silver as we've got here, and then you also sometimes do the wacky versions like the black brass version. Check the website and see what options they've got. Thanks to Light Lens for sending the lens to test. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and as always, a huge thanks to my amazing patrons.